Adam Smith, the towering Scottish philosopher and economist of the Enlightenment, crafted a body of work that transcends disciplinary boundaries, weaving together moral philosophy, economic theory, legal history, and rhetorical analysis into a rich tapestry that continues to shape modern thought. His intellectual journey begins with the theory of moral sentiments, first published in 1759, a work that establishes his philosophical foundation by exploring the roots of human morality and sympathy, a term he uses to describe our capacity to imaginatively share in others' emotions, whether joy or sorrow. Smith posits that this empathetic process, refined by the impartial spectator, an internalized objective judge of our actions, drives us to seek mutual approval and temper self-interest with social harmony. Far from a dry treatise, it's a nuanced portrait of human nature, arguing that morality isn't imposed by divine command or abstract reason but emerges organically from our interactions, is a dynamic interplay of sentiment and reflection. He distinguishes justice, the enforceable duty to avoid harm, from benevolence, the voluntary virtue of kindness, laying a groundwork that resonates with his later economic ideas. Self-interest, he suggests, operates within a moral framework shaped by community. Revised across 6 editions until his death in 1790, the work reflects his evolving thought, responding to critics like Hume and deepening its psychological insights, revealing a thinker who saw morality as both a personal struggle and a societal glue. Smith's most celebrated contribution, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, shifts his lens to economics, offering a revolutionary vision that dismantled the mercantilist orthodoxies of his day and birthed classical economics. Spanning 5 books and 2 volumes, this sprawling masterpiece argues that a nation's wealth lies not in gold or silver stockpiles, as mercantilists held, but in the productive capacity of its people, fueled by the division of labor, a concept he illustrates vividly with the pin factory, where specialization multiplies output. This isn't mere mechanics. Smith roots it in human nature, our innate propensity to barter and exchange, which transforms individual effort into collective prosperity. His famous invisible hand emerges here. Individuals pursuing their own gain, such as bakers baking and brewers brewing, unintentionally serve society, a harmony he sees unleashed by free markets. Yet he's no absolutist. He critiques monopolies, acknowledges inequality, and assigns government vital roles including defense, justice, and public works like roads or education, crafting a balanced liberalism often caricatured as laissez-faire. His historical analysis, tracing economies from hunter-gatherers to commercial societies, and his breakdown of value into labor, capital, and rent, showcase an empirical rigor that captivated contemporaries and influenced thinkers from Ricardo to Marx. Digressive and dense, with tangents on silver prices or colonial trade, it's a work of restless curiosity, cementing Smith's belief that wealth flows from human ingenuity freed from artificial shackles. The posthumous essays on philosophical subjects, published in 1795 under the care of editors Joseph Black and James Hutton, unveils a different Smith, one captivated by the history of ideas and the arts, drawing from manuscripts he left unfinished. The standout, The History of Astronomy, likely penned in his youth, traces humanity's quest to comprehend the cosmos, from animistic tales of gods to Newton's mathematical precision, framing this as a psychological journey driven by wonder, surprise, and the need to ease mental unease. Smith's focus isn't on scientific truth, but on how imagination crafts systems to explain the inexplicable, a process he sees mirrored in philosophy and even economics. Shorter essays, like The History of Ancient Physics and The History of the Ancient Logics and Metaphysics, extend this method, probing how early thinkers wrestled with nature and reason, while of the external senses and of the nature of that imitation, which takes place in what are called the imitative arts, explore perception, and aesthetics, how we sense the world and find joy in mimicry, be it painting or poetry. These pieces, less systematic than his major works, feel like intellectual sketches, hinting at a grander project on human knowledge he never completed, destroyed in his final years. They reveal a polymath delighting in the breadth of human inquiry, tying curiosity to the same social instincts that animate his moral and economic theories. Lectures on Jurisprudence, preserved through student notes, offers a sweeping examination of law and governance, connecting justice to the material evolution of societies. Smith organizes his lectures around protecting rights, economic order, and defense, though the surviving texts emphasize justice and property. He traces legal systems through 4 stages: hunter-gatherer, pastoral, agricultural, and commercial, showing how each reflects its economic base. Sparse property in nomadic life demands little law, while land and trade in later stages require complex rules. Justice, for Smith, is society's bedrock, and he details property's origins, including occupation, succession, and transfer, while critiquing its unequal distribution under feudalism or monarchy. Government, he argues, arises to safeguard these rights, evolving from tribal leaders to balanced systems like Britain's, though he warns of power's corrupting tilt toward the wealthy. The police section previews the wealth of nations, advocating cheapness and plenty over mercantilist controls, blending legal history with economic foresight. Raw and incomplete, these lectures bridge his moral philosophy and economics, portraying law as a human construct adapting to necessity and ambition. Finally, Lectures on Rhetoric and Bell's Letters captures Smith as an educator, dissecting the art of communication with a clarity that echoes his moral and economic principles. Rejecting the florid rhetoric of classical tradition, he champions perspicuity, plain, context-appropriate language, teaching students to narrate simply, argue logically, and persuade with restraint. His literary criticism probes how style mirrors intent and culture, introducing character as a writer's authentic voice, a concept ahead of its time. Poetry and prose, he suggests, imitate life to delight or inform, tying art to the sympathetic imagination of his earlier work. Rich with examples, these lectures reflect his Glasgow days, influencing students like John Miller and revealing a humanist streak. Communication, like trade or morality, binds us. Less weighty than his economic tome, they're a lively complement, showing how words, like markets, thrive when clear and free. Taken together, Smith's works form a grand intellectual edifice, united by a vision of humanity as social, creative, and driven by both self-interest and connection. The theory of moral sentiments roots this in sympathy and justice. The Wealth of Nations scales it to economic systems, celebrating liberty's fruits. The essays trace it through knowledge's history, jurisprudence grounds it in law's evolution, and rhetoric refines it in language's power. His method, historical, empirical, and humane, blends Enlightenment optimism with a realist sigh for flaws, yet he trusts in competition, conscience, and cooperation to lift us. Unfinished threads hint at even greater ambitions, but what remains is vast, a legacy that shaped capitalism, philosophy, and beyond, portraying society as a living network of individuals, each act rippling outward. Smith's genius lies in this synthesis, a belief that from our messy, striving nature emerges order, progress, and meaning. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for more content on the Philosophy series.